Bueno, Stella, hola, bienvenida, yo soy Zoe. Estoy un poco nerviosa, ¿vale? Y estoy muy contenta de estar aquí contigo hoy. Para mí es como una charla muy especial. Bueno, para mí Blackbird Academy es muy especial porque gracias al equipo de Inlov yo pude leer Blackbird Academy antes de su publicación y para mí fue... Bueno, ya hablaremos de eso. Es la primera vez que vienes a España. ¿Qué tal la experiencia?
Hi, I'm Stella. Maybe I introduce myself in German because I'm a German author. So I say quick words like, hallo, ich bin Stella Tack, ich bin 30 Jahre alt. Ich bin eigentlich Österreicherin und nicht Deutsche. Das wird aber ganz, ganz verwechselt. Ist aber nicht schlimm. Das ist gar nicht schlimm. Und ich freue mich sehr, hier in Spanien zu sein. And now I'm gonna switch into English, if this is okay. I'm really excited to be here. It's my first time in Spain, actually. And it's not my first time traveling to another country, but I think it's the first time to have so big events. And this is really special. This is not normal for me, to be honest. So I'm a bit nervous too, but I'm positive that we can make that today, not to be so much embarrassed.
Tienes toda la razón.
Sorry.
¿Cómo te has sentido con tu público español? ¿Te has sentido acogida, cómoda?
Yes, actually, I think it's quite similar to Germany or Poland or the other. I think bookish people are kind of the same because they're all friendly and they all read kind of the same book. So this is really connecting. So at the beginning, I felt really nervous. You know, am I too foreign to fit in? Am I funny enough for the Spanish audience? Because I know I'm funny for Germans, but that does not mean I'm funny for everyone. And when I got there and I saw the smiles and I saw how the people are reacting to me, I instantly felt relieved, and I saw the love and how the people are so kind to me. And this is, since then I just have a good time. I'm just tired because I'm not a morning person, but everything else went really well. And the people in Spain, they are really friendly. But I think you know that you are friendly.
Me alegro de que te hayas sentido así, de que te hayas sentido cómoda. Al final creo que la comunidad lectora consigue hacer como esa unión que por muchas ideas diferentes que puedas tener es como te unen los libros y en este caso, bueno, pues estamos aquí por eso. Entonces estoy muy contenta, somos majos a veces, como todo en esta vida. Creo que tienes un humor muy peculiar. No sé si es tu humor habitual y tu forma de expresarte, pero en este caso en Blackbird Academy está y a mí me gusta mucho personalmente. Entonces yo creo que va a ir todo muy bien.
I just answered that I'm funny. I'm just answering that. When I started writing, I was really young. I was about 20 years old. And I wrote a book called Kiss Me Once. And I wanted to write something funny. But at that time, the publisher said to me, young people, they are not funny. Make it straight. And I was like, no, I really believe in youth and I believe they have a sense of humor. And I wrote that book. And in America, comedy was a thing in books, but not in Germany. And maybe you heard the stereotype, it is hard to make Germans or Austrians to laugh. I think the stereotype is half true, half not. You just need to know what they think is funny. So I wrote that book and it instantly made me a best-selling author because the youth felt so much caught up. They felt like they could laugh, they could have a good time. Until that day, writing with humor is kind of my, I would not say standalone thing, but it is connected to my writing really, really deep. Fast pacing, bad jokes, funny jokes, all of that combined, sometimes with a little bit more gore or blood or maybe a more sexy setting, but the humor is always a part of it. But when my books have been translated, I did not know if the joke makes any sense in another language. So I was really afraid that this book does not make any sense. And so when you tell me I'm funny even in Spanish, I'm relieved, to be honest.
Sí, yo los idiomas no los controlo, entonces no te puedo decir si está bien o mal traducido porque yo lo he disfrutado, a mí me ha encantado, yo estoy living, pero bueno, ya fangirlearemos un poco más tarde. Has hablado de tu primera novela y yo te quería preguntar, ¿cuándo empezaste a escribir? ¿Cómo fue un poco, bueno, pues el inicio? Si hubo algún detonante que te hizo empezar a rodar.
I'm the part of author who always wanted to write, even when I was a child. I made my first book when I was in kindergarten, when I was 4. So it was not a good book, you know. It was opening on the wrong direction, and it was about what is the word? Seagulls, Möwen. Yeah, it's about seagulls who just lay eggs and marry and be happy together in their little tiny birdhouse. And that was the moment I recognized I'm really into story. I was always a big fan of storytelling. My parents had this household with tons of books. So my mom is an artist. I grew up in an artistic household. And I discovered really quickly that I wanted to be an author. The problem is I have dyslexia. So I was not a good student at all. When I was younger, the teacher saw, okay, she writes interesting and complex stories for her age, but they have been packed with so many mistakes. I failed school, actually. And when I talked about I want to be an author, everyone told me, no, Stella, you're too dumb. Actually, I never had the teacher decide, wow, Stella, I think you have a hidden talent. I only had the teacher who said, no, Stella, you're too dumb. You're not going to make it. And this followed me through my teenage years. That really was not good for my mental health, to be honest. But I always knew I wanted to tell stories, and I always had the feeling I can do this. And so I just started writing, and I finished my first novel when I was 16, and I tried to find a publisher. And I think I made every mistake I could do with trying to make this big book being published, and I did not receive any positive letter. But this was the time when the people told me, yeah, Miss Tack, you're a good writer, but you are too young to survive in the environment of publishing. Grew up. And so I did, and I was in Florida for half a year, and there I wrote my second book. It was called Lucifer, like the devil. And Lucifer was my first publication when I was 19. No one was reading it, really. I didn't sell it. I think I sold 100 books of Lucifer. Actually, now Lucifer is selling more than when I originally started the book. But it was like the beginning. And the beginning taught me how not to publish a book and with what publisher needs to be good and what not. And I just kept writing. And I got to be with 20, a really young mother. And so I had a little bit of time on my hand, so I started to write my third novel. It was called War and Peace. It is translated in other countries, not here in Spain yet. And War and Peace was this Greek mythology, gory, really, really funny, unhinged book. And this was my first little breakthrough because suddenly people talked about me. And with 21, an agent found me with War and Peace. And he said, oh, do you want to make a novel with me? And I was saying, it depends on, I write fantasy, but he wanted from me romantic. So I said, well, maybe I had this one idea, and this idea was Kiss Me Once. And that book made me, with 22, the youngest best-selling author in Austria, actually.
Qué heavy. Me parece tan increíble. Y al final, sobre todo como cuando, si ya de por sí tendemos a, yo al menos, por ejemplo, tiendo como mucho a infravalorar lo que yo hago. Si encima estás acompañada de gente que no te está subiendo y que dice, no, es que eres muy joven, crece, madura, haz las cosas bien. Claro, con el paso de los años, ¿cómo has gestionado un poco toda la experiencia que tuviste en el pasado? Ese famoso síndrome del impostor que ya de base suelen tener los escritores. Si le sumas esas experiencias previas más todos los libros que tienes publicados y un poco tu experiencia, ¿cómo gestionas el síndrome del impostor?
Imposter syndrome in case, like, oh no, no one is going to read my books, or like, oh no, I'm good enough, or like this. Every author has that. Really, every author I know has that. But I think I was always a person of art. Always. I always wanted to express myself. When I was a kid and a teenager, I danced ballet. I may not look like it now, okay, but I was really skinny when I started. And I was dancing and I was acting, and I always wanted to, as a kid, I thought maybe I'm an actor or something. So even when people told me you're not good enough, I always wanted to express and show what's inside of me, always. So I'm a really outgoing person. I always was. And I have this thing when someone is telling me you're not good enough, I always want to show the people that I am good enough, actually. And I know I'm not perfect. I make many mistakes also in my books in Germany, always known for having a few more mistakes than other books, and I'm always embarrassed about it. But then on the other side, I think, yeah, well, my publisher knows it, so it's his job and not mine, because I cannot see the mistakes, you know. It's getting better from time to time now. And, you know, starting to be a person that is known, it feels sometimes strange. And sometimes it feels like I'm exactly on the place I need to be myself. Because I think it's horrible to be just in the background of my own life. I really want to shine. I really want to talk with people. I want to do amazing things. I want to search vampires. I want to see fairies. I'm a person who wants things in life. And so sometimes, you know, when I see receiving bad comments, well, that's part of it. You know, I need to learn to overlook this and say, okay, you're more than welcome to dislike it, but that does not stop me for being me. And it does not stop my writing, because I am sure that being an author is the reason why I'm here. Does it make sense? I really found my place to be, and I know I'm the best where I am. And when you're making art, people don't like it, and that is perfectly fine. But the best thing is, for last month, I was at the book fair in Frankfurt. It's the biggest book fair in Europe, I think. And the lineup was, wow, so much people, and half of it have been young girls. And they smiled at me and they told me, I was reading your book when I was 13, and it changed my life. It changed who I am. It changed my writing, my reading, and it made me so much laugh. And I started to see the world different. And I think I can save young women with my writing, because books, they saved me. So all of this is more important than being discriminated or disliked for one part of the book someone didn't like. You know, that happens. But there are so many books, you know, they come over it. And this is giving me so much that I'm living well with it. Yeah. This is my really long answer to that really short question. I'm sorry.
A mí se me va el hilo. Es que quiero contestar muchas cosas. Bueno, así en resumen, me parece admirable la manera que tienes, pues, de contar un poco tu historia y lo que significa para ti la escritura, que a la vista está, pues, que dejas. O sea, yo siento por cómo hablas de ello y por las experiencias que estás contando que te dejas el alma en ello. Entonces, yo eso lo admiro muchísimo. Has dicho que has sido madre joven. Yo también. Y quería preguntarte, ¿cómo compaginas la maternidad con escribir libros, firmas, procesos editoriales? ¿Cómo va todo eso?
I became a mom when I was 20. And I got pregnant when I was 19. You know, I was really young. To that time, I haven't felt like a teenager anymore, to be honest. I grew up really fast out of the teenage phase. So I was okay with it. A big part of my backbone is my husband, who got me pregnant. But my husband is the reason my career is now on the place what it is. To that time, we moved. I'm from Austria, but he studied in Munich, and I remember my baby was not 1 month old, 2 weeks, I think. And we moved to Munich and I was completely alone. We had that really tiny flat in Munich because Munich is known for being unhinged expensive. So we don't have money. He was studying and he was working at the same time, and I was alone in that tiny flat with my baby, and we even didn't have a sofa. So I dragged from my bed the mattress just to have to sit somewhere in the living room. And I remember I was 20, I had the baby, I was sitting in this flat completely alone, no help. And I started to cry, and then I started to feel sorry, and then I started to say, well, now I can prove that everyone was wrong, and I felt a lot of strength in me, and then I started to write, and I never stopped, and I was so tired all the time. It was the time when I started to drink coffee, and my husband always tried to help me. And when my career started to break through, I told him, we can get a second child, but you need to take care of the child and I go to work. And he just finished his university. And so my thing was, I want my career and you have to wait. And my husband said, okay. And he really promised it, and he made it. So I'm a night writer. I write everything in the evening. I start at 8 o'clock in the evening and I stop 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So this is time for me, where no one is bothering me, no kids, no something else. I'm just working in the night. It's not healthy at all. I cannot recommend it, but well, I'm here now. I cannot stop it. And my husband is taking care of the kids in the morning. You know, I can go to sleep. I sleep till lunch. And he's taking care of the kids. He's bringing them to the kindergarten, to the school. Then he starts his own working. I have my time to get finished. And I stand up. I, make my work. I answer emails or something else. And then the kids come back, I'm cooking and I'm bringing them to bed, and then I start to work. So it's a tough schedule, but it only works out because my husband is helping. Otherwise, it would be a catastrophic. He is really a big part of my life and why my career is so great. And he's also coming with me. I told him I want to go to Spain, but I'm afraid to go alone. And he was like, oh, don't worry, Stelly. I'm coming with you. I got everything. I have your tickets. You don't need to look once where you have to go because I have no orientation. I was just stuck everywhere. So he's there with me. He's guiding me through everything. And this is how our life has always been together. He's guiding me and I make the money. I'm the sugar mama of this family. And I'm proud of that, yeah.
Qué bonito. De verdad, me encanta. O sea, me encanta que él sea tu bastón y que te apoye en tu carrera, te impulse. Me parece maravilloso. O sea, adoro. Yo te quería preguntar, porque ya no me aguanto yo las ganas de hablar de Blackbird Academy. ¿De dónde surgió la idea de esta trilogía?
So, another long answer. In Germany, I wrote this book called Knight of Crowns. Knight of Crowns I wrote it in a time where fantasy was nearly dead in Germany. No one wanted to read German fantasy anymore. And everyone was like, oh yeah, new adult romance is the new thing. But I really wanted to write this story about a living chess game. Like people with a curse and two schools, two boarding schools. And one is the black side and one is the white side. And everyone is a certain eine spezielle Schachfigur, a certain chess player. Yeah, and they need to fight for their life. And I didn't know it then, but I already wrote Dark Academia. Till that time, everyone just saying, yeah, it was a school setting. But it was, in fact, really dark academia. And it was quite successful in that time. And my publisher in Germany, Random House, they wanted a book with Dark Academia theme. So they have been reading Knight of Crowns, and then they called my agent and said, we want to have Stella, and we want her to write Dark Academia for us. She can fill it with whatever she wants. And to the time, I was working mainly for Ravensburger. And Ravensburger is mainly for kids, toys, kids' books. You also have the puzzles from Ravensburger, right? Yeah, and they have this section for books, but they are young adult. They are for little bit younger, they're for teenagers, they're not grown-up books. And I was craving to write a book for grown-ups, yeah? And I always had this idea with Exorcist, but I don't wanted to make them young. I wanted to have them sex, and I want to be gory and bloody and, unhinged again. So when the offer came, I had no time. I really had no time for Blackbird Academy, but I said, yes, I make this book when I'm allowed to write about exorcists. And there was no book about exorcists at all. And they wanted to convince me, maybe you make a demon hunter theme. And no, we have demon hunters, but we don't have exorcists. And I think that's hot. And they allowed me to write that. And, it's always a game with fantasy. I mean, it's the much increasing genre in Germany. And I also think worldwide. But romance books are much more easy to sell. They sell easier, they sell quicker. You saw it for Kiss Me Once, I don't need to do anything for that book. It just sells constantly since 10 years. And with Blackbird Academy, everyone was, it's fantasy for grown-ups, we need to fill that space. Maybe we look what's coming out of it. And it became an extremely well-sold bestseller instantly. And I was, in fact, the first... in Germany, they on TikTok, they came the TikTok bestseller list. And Blackbird came, and I was the only German author under the top 5 in the TikTok bestseller list. And since then it was a winning game with Blackbird Academy. The only problem with the book is because I write for 2 publishers. The people in Germany had to wait 3 years for all of the books, because in 1 year I was publishing 1 book for Ravensburger and 1 book for Penhaligon, and 1 Christmas book or something else. So I already had 3 books per year, but the people had to long, really, really, really long. So this year was also the release date for Blackbird Academy 3 in Germany.
Bueno, yo de hecho cuando me leí Blackbird Academy, a mí me enviaron la copia avanzada y me la iban a enviar en físico. Yo empecé a leer y me duró 2 días. O sea, yo decía, ¿qué estoy leyendo? ¿Qué es esto? O sea, ¿qué es esta fantasía? Claro, es algo novedoso que no has leído nunca. Y yo pensé, en este libro, ¿te habías inspirado esto es una pregunta un poco extraña, ¿vale? Pero ¿te habías inspirado en la película del Exorcista? ¿Hubo ahí algo o no? No hay ningún tipo de correlación.
I never watched The Exorcist because I'm the most scary cat in this world. I cannot watch a horror movie without getting nightmares. I'm not even good in reading scary, but I love to write scary. This is like insane. Yeah, I love it to chop someone's limb off. I really love that, but I couldn't watch that. The one time I watched Saw and I got nightmares like 3 years long. But I'm also known for being really gory. I don't know why. Maybe, I'm expressing my inner tempter, like my inner anger with that. I'm not sure. I never watched The Exorcist because I was always afraid of that. But I am a big anime fan. So most of my books are more anime related. Some told me, oh yeah, especially in Spain, they said, oh yeah, it gives me Shadowhunter vibes. But it was not at all, to be honest, my basic for it. It was like more, there's an anime called Blue Exorcist. And it's more of infusion of Blue Exorcist and Supernatural. When you want to compare it, I always try to make my own story, but of course there are a lot of stories out there, so maybe it's just, cutting through something. But those 2 have been more my inspiration than the real Exorcist. And I think, I think that's the answer. That's the correct answer about that. Maybe I can add something. I am known for being more loud than other authors, especially in Ravensburger, because they are writing more youth books. Ravensburger is always really like, oh no, that's too violent. No, don't do that. No, oh, that's gross. No, don't write that. And so we are really restricted with Ravensburger, for example. And my colleagues are so angry with that they started to type, but Stella is allowed to do that. I want to chop off someone's hand. And so I started to be a little bit more, for example, so when Stella is allowed to do it, I'm also allowed to do it. But I think most of the publishers wouldn't allow me to do anything. Also, I wrote Ever and After, a really dark fairy tale. And my agent told me when I have told her the real story, she would never said this is selling well, because no one wants to read such a dark book. So I think I set the strings new and show, well, I think the people like it, but I'm not sure if they like it because I'm writing it or because the people are going, I don't know. But most of the colleagues I know, they write to their to the publishers, I know this is gory, but Stella Tack did it too.
Yo es que creo que hay mucho miedo al éxito. O sea, al final el público creo que cada vez pide novedad, exige un contenido más explícito a nivel sexual y a nivel de violencia. Entonces es como, bueno, ¿por qué no te vas a arriesgar? Inténtalo. Oye, y si es un fracaso, pues mira, pues ya está. Igual tú el libro lo has disfrutado muchísimo, pero oye, pues no es para el público o lo que sea, pero arriésgate a intentar. Pues lo que haces tú, pues mira qué fantasía. Pues ya está.
Yeah, with Blackbird 3 is the best example. Especially the love story, you know. I put much more thought about the world building than in the love story, and I'm always amused that, you know, I had created this huge complex world, and the only thing that people want to know is how, with what guy she's ending up to, and that was a little bit tricky for me because I always want, especially in such a violent and dark theme, that the heroine is choosing herself. You know, over everything, you need to choose yourself. But they always want you to know what guy. And I know you all want the funny guy, you know, and the broken boy. Some want the broken boy, but also he's not a good match. Yeah. So all in all, the love story is not an easy one, but we intend to like easy answers. You know, also in a book, they want have their happy ending and they want the guy, and I get why. I also love that she's ending with the guy I like, you know. But Blackbird Academy was too complex, too dark, and the figures too caught up in their situation in their life, and they're doing the right decision. And the right decision is not always what the people wants to read. And I had a really tough experience with Blackbird Academy 3 to make the ending people like, but also an ending that fits for me and fits for Leaf, because we forget that this woman had a tough life and she had to make tough decisions. And yeah, I wrote Blackbird 3 and I knew it was a good ending, but not the ending all of the people would like. And I choose the ending, it was right. Okay. I knew I got to receive some bad reviews. But this is the risk I did, and also to look, are people open for that or not? Because when I recognize, okay, they are really all against it and they are all extremely, extremely disappointed, I wouldn't choose that way anymore. But I really do that. I really choose the way I think that is the best for the heroine. And yeah, that was an experiment I made, and it's amusing how the people are reacting. But I still think it was the best ending, and I chose a more open end, so you can think of way more stories, because to be honest, Blackbird Academy is a series. It needs much more books than 3. It needs more books.
Sí.
But this is a problem with the book industry, you know. Is there enough money for more books? In America, it's a little bit more easy because they're bigger. They sell more. But in Austria and Germany, we have to look a little bit more on the numbers. And so they are just 3 books, and that was so hard for me. I have like the book is so mighty, it needs 6 books to be really told through.
O 20
But
si quieres.
I only had 3 books, and so this was a little bit complicated. And I choose what I knew was not the most likable choice for everyone, but was the right decision for the book, and also for this semi-open ending to think, this book is for you. You can think for eternity how you would like to continue the story, because some parts are just really open.
Es que yo creo que Blackbird Academy, de hecho, era una pregunta que te iba a hacer. Me parece un mundo súper complejo. Yo me estoy leyendo el 3er libro, no me lo he acabado, lo estoy pasando mal, pero yo siento que a mí me hacen falta 7 libros más. Entonces, ¿habría la posibilidad de que en algún momento, si a ti la editorial te dice, oye, mira, sí, tú harías más libros de más personajes, de cosas?
Yes, I would. If the publisher is coming to me and saying, Stella, we want to continue, we want 2 more books or something about, I don't know, Crane or something, I would be happily to do that. But I'm not sure if this is happening, because I already talked with them, and we had 2 ideas. One idea was staying in this world and maybe go to a whole different city and maybe talk about, the first series was about demons, and I thought maybe the next one can about devils. Or we can make something extremely different from that, and having a whole new world, a whole new setting, and going even much bigger, because now, because of America, high fantasy starts to be more into like Fourth Wing or Court of Thorns and Roses, so like more easy high fantasy stuff. And we thought about that half a year, and then the publisher decided they want to have high fantasy from me. So Blackbird is officially ended. I'm sorry about that. Really, Blackbird Academy is the only series I say that book deserved more books to be completely told. But maybe for you, I have with Crane, I plotted new books. So in my head, he's still having his own story, his own love stories. He's going his own way, and also we're meeting other people. So the story is existing. I'm just not sure if I'm ever going to write it. Maybe when you buy the book so crazy, and maybe when America is jumping in and it gets a best-selling there, then maybe Random House is saying, okay, we now make it, But they are also afraid of having too much time between that. It was already not easy for the Blackbird Academy series to have 1 year in between. Just imagine you have to wait 3 more years for a new series. Is this going to sell well? I don't know. They don't know. And the Germans are not known for being risky. I think here I experienced here in Spain much more, we're just doing this quickly. And in Germany, nothing goes quickly. They really love their numbers, and they want to stick on that numbers. And the thing is, the first book of a series always sells the best. And part 2 and 3, they're okay. They can exist. They go with it, the people are happy. But the publisher always wants the first new book. Yeah. So it's always, I think we romanticize being an author really much. But at the end, it's about numbers. And don't get me wrong, Blackbird Academy is sold for the German market extremely well. It's going international, and it's been great, But still, the publisher sees more potential in just making a new, big, gigantic series and trying this one. But I never say never. If I ever get the offer, I'm gladly doing this, because the story is already there. Crane is just waiting for getting his story. And I really love his story. He's funny.
Lo necesito para ayer. Vale, estamos a punto de acabar. Entonces, como nosotras somos muy intensas, porque así somos y yo quiero todo lo que escribas, Kiss Me One va a salir, no sé si el año que viene, sí, ¿no? Va a salir, lo va a traer Inlov el año que viene. ¿Nos podrías contar un poco así brevemente de qué va y a qué público está dirigido?
What you need to know is Kiss Me Once is the extremely opposite of Blackbird Academy. Kiss Me Once is also the different publisher. I told you it's from Ravensburger, so they are much they start really young. They get a little bit older during the time, but they start really young, you know. And Blackbird Academy is for grown-ups, and it's dark and it's bloody. And Kiss Me Once is the fluffy, pink, funny opposite of it. It's a bodyguard romance, actually. It came out of a time when everyone was writing about rock stars. I'm not sure if Spain had that time too, but in Germany, everything was full of, oh yeah, and she fell in love with a rock star. Okay. And to the time, Maxton Hall from Mona Kasten, I think you know the movie from her, was releasing Maxton Hall. And the publisher told me, yeah, we want something like Maxton Hall, but we're not sure. Do we have any ideas? And I was like, okay, can we mix something? But we already have the rock stars. What can be a good love interest? I always think, what could be a good love interest? And the answer for me was, I've never reading a book about bodyguards, and I think that is quite sexy. And then I remember I was myself in America in that college. And then I put everything together, and then we had this really, really rich girl that wants to have a normal life. So she's going to this normal university where normal people live, and the only reason she's allowed to do that because, you know, she's a billionaire. She needs a bodyguard on her side, and he needs to be looking young, right? Because they're on college, they're incognito. So they sent her Ryan McCain. And Ryan McCain don't want the job at all, but he needs to prove something to his dad, who's owning the security company. And so Ryan McCain comes to Ivy Redmond, and they need to go to college and hide who she is. And the two of them at the beginning don't know who they are. So they start to have a little relationship with other until they discover who they actually are. To be honest, Ryan McCain is not a good bodyguard. Yeah, it is like everything goes wrong. What can go wrong? It is a book for you to giggle. It's a book where you say, "Oh no, I cannot read." I'm in German we say Fremdschämen, wrong shaming, not myself shaming. I don't know. When you feel ashamed for something the heroine is doing, so you should a bit of Fremdschämen in that book. And she's eating all this weird little stuff, and she is talking really, really quirky and really funny. And then you have the sexy Ryan McCain, who is trying to survive that wild girl. And this book has my heart because it was the most easiest book for me to write, and it is till now the best sold book I've ever was writing, because this book you can give it to everyone. You know, this book does not make any damage. When your young sister wants to read, you give them Kiss Me Once. If your mom wants to read something, just, you know, to forget the boring daytime, you read Kiss Me Once. So this book is for everyone. You're not the only thing. You're not supposed to take that book serious. This book is comedy in its purest form. You should laugh. And when you don't like my humor, maybe don't read Kiss Me Once.
Me encanta, lo quiero ya. Y bueno, ya para terminar, también Inlov nos va a traer otra novedad, que es un nuevo Romantasy. Entiendo que es el último libro que has escrito, Ever After, El Príncipe Durmiente. También, cuéntame un poco.
Ever After is even more popular in Germany than Blackbird Academy. It has a release on the beginning of October. It was now 1 month on the best-selling list. Everyone is quite happy. My publisher sent me flowers to my home. I just saw the pictures. They're like, congratulations, Stella. We're so proud of the success from Ever After. The story behind Ever After is they wanted to write me more romance books at the time. And I already wrote 8 romance books, and I love to write romance, but I get quickly bored. So I was like, can I write one fantasy book in between? Please, I beg you, just let me write something unhinged, a little bit more dark, and I need to kill someone. And they gave me the permission to write one book. And that was Ever After. In Germany, it's very popular to make fairy tale retellings. And I had this idea about the descendants of fairy tales, so like the grandchildren of Snow White or Cinderella or something. And I wrote that book, and it starts so innocent. And Ever and After is the darkest book I was ever writing. It is because it's based on Brother Grimm, the original Brother Grimm. It turns really dark, really, really fast. And it is kind of more horror book than, in fact, it's a romantasy. And I think people in Germany have been so shocked about the change in that book that it sold incredible much. And I get the permission to write 2 books after that. And then I said, yeah, well, I know I promised I finished with 2 books, but we have a problem. I haven't finished it. I need a 3rd book. And they gave me the permission for a 3rd book, and that had release last month. And it's blowing up in Germany, all around. Because that really, really strange shit happens in that book. I'm really proud of what's happening there. And I'm curious how Spain is receiving it. The only thing you need to know is the Blackbird Academy series always is going to be the series with the most spice, because my Ravensburger books are always a tiny bit younger. I say a tiny bit because they are 18, and in Blackbird Academy they are 25. So they make a little bit more teenager decisions. But also Ever and After is the only book we needed to put up the age limitation started with 14, and book 3 has age limitation 16 up to 18. It's the only book where this happened because such shocking things happening that they said, okay, we need to delete it or we need to raise the age. And I said, wait, we are raising the age because I'm not deleting that. This is really great. So Ever and After is an experiment, and I'm happy with my experience. I think they're always they're always great. They sell well, and Ever and After is now more in talk than the Blackbird Academy, but only because Blackbird Academy already had their release back in spring, and now everyone is talking about, the dark fairy tales.
Bueno, Estela, yo me pasaría hablando horas contigo y preguntándote y charlando, pero nos tenemos que despedir. Ha sido todo un placer, o sea, estoy encantada de haber podido hablar contigo, de tenerte aquí, y espero verte pronto.
Yes, thank you, and I hope I can come back to Spain in next year or in some with some new bestsellers to buy my books. Thank you.